Hey my friends, today I wanted to take a closer look at the SunPan and show you 4 scales that we currently have in our mysticinstruments.com site. The SunPan is an instrument that really inspires me. It's such a unique shape. There's many features built into this that are just different than modern handpans. And I think for players that are looking for a new sound or connect with the sort of integrated instrument theory of soft borders, really will love these. And so we're going to look at some of the features in 3 different scales that we currently have. We have 2 pygmies, or standard as Marti calls it, and a G Spanish Gypsy and an F sharp minor, which is the classic cabezal style scale. I find these stainless steel instruments just to be amazing to work with. They fit my playing style really well, and they kind of bridge the gap between melodic playing and percussive playing. Because of the soft borders, they encourage you to be percussive, but there's a softness to the sound that you can pull from them. So I think all styles of players really can relate well to them, and they're just such a different experience to work with compared to other handpans. So let's take a look at Marti's SunPans. So something unique you'll notice as I'm going through these scales is that there's no fifth. These are tuned with 2 octaves. So on the X and Y axis, there's the same note. So if the center note is an F sharp, if I go on the X axis, it's an F sharp, but a higher octave. And I do the other one, it's also another higher octave. This is a style that people like Pantheon Steel uses on, or used to use on their high notes as well. There's other tuners that will do it as well on higher notes, where it's harder to tune in a fifth, especially on circular notes. But Marti has chosen this kind of stylistically, and it works really well for his material and the type of stainless he's working with. So it doesn't lend itself to sounding more steel drum-like, which is interesting, because my assumption when I first played a SunPan was like, oh, it's going to sound very much like a steel pan. It really doesn't. It has a brightness to the sound, but there's a warmth that pervades the sort of sound of all of these instruments, no matter what the scale is, that I think is kind of surprising, given that it doesn't have the normal octave-fifth relationship. So let's take a look. So one of the key features of the SunPan is the build style. SunPans have an offset goo or port that is untuned. However, this is designed so you can carry it comfortably if you're walking around and holding it. And it also provides an easier way of controlling the Helmholtz with your leg, because it's right over where your right leg is going to be if you're playing it in a classic style. These also have bolts. And interestingly enough, this is one of a handful of makers that uses this style to join handpans together. Because of this, there's not a sort of glue dampening the sound transfer between top and bottom shell. So Marti has different techniques to control some of the contact noise, especially around the center note. You'll also notice on these that they have very soft borders. So one note and another note kind of blend together, aside from the tiny dimple that is built into it. And this is called soft border tuning. SunPans, Luna, Handpan Sebastian's work, some of the Hong's early Echo sound sculptures had very soft borders. Some of the Terrapans had soft borders. It's a Bellart as well. It's a tuning style that for some people works out really well because it makes an instrument sound very integrated, but it can be hard to control depending on people's tuning style. So I like soft border instruments, but some people like all the notes to be their own ecosystem and it sounds, just like their own entity. In SunPans, they kind of resonate as a whole. So you have this sort of wall of sound that you can navigate as you're working with the SunPan. The other interesting feature, if you look on the inside here, you can see there is dampening around the center note. and this is to control the shoulders. So Marti found a way of creating a nice clean sound on the center note, and it's harder because of the soft borders to really clean up that note, and this was a great solution to that. So he was able to build that into all of his instruments. So like I was saying about the opening on the bottom, this is always to your right knee. So you can very easily control the Helmholtz. If you're using headphones, you'll be able to hear this. If you're just using your phone, you're not going to hear the difference, but there's a really distinct Helmholtz resonance on this instrument that you can control by covering and uncovering that opening with your leg. And I also use it to orient where the one position is for myself. All of Marti's instruments currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 notes, 7 on the sides, 1 in the center. He eventually may expand to other amounts, but for the moment, this is how he's making them. And these finishes that he uses, and I'll put up some other videos with these, are just absolutely spectacular. Sort of these oil slick painting style finishes that I just find are amazing to look at, and they're really eye-catching in videos. So a lot of people like this when used in a video just because it's very attention-grabbing. What I wanted to show you first was the F-sharp minor scale, which is kind of the classic handpan scale for Marti's instruments. And again, he's been around forever. He was one of the early people working with stainless steel, and a lot of what we started from began with the SunPans. So let's take a look at what the F-sharp sounds like. So who are the SunPans a good fit for? I think anybody that likes sort of the classic sound of the SunPan, something that's very open and bright, but has depth to it. People that like higher tunings as well tend to be drawn to SunPans as they're offered in the same range as like an early hum would be in G or A, F. And I think the higher tuning lends itself again to different styles of playing. The other thing that I find really interesting about SunPans is they're unbelievably durable, at least the current crop is in the last 4 years. When I fly with these, when I'm performing, I oftentimes don't even use a hard case, which, it's on me, but I've had so much experience lending these to people, letting them play, bringing them on a plane, that I'm really confident in the stability of these handpans. And because of that, I feel very comfortable sharing it with other people and also providing them on the site. And I think that sort of stability of tuning is really useful. If you're a new player and you're really drawn to a SunPan, you will be able to know that it's going to stay in tune for a while as long as you're not punching the handpan. In terms of retunes, if you're in Europe, obviously Marti could retune it for you. In the US, tuners that are comfortable tuning notes with just an octave and a circular tone field would be great to get in touch with for this. And most tuners probably would be willing to work on this. Pantheon Steel, so Kyle Cox would be a great person to contact if you wanted to get one of these retuned, because he was tuning in this style as well on the high notes on most of the halos that he was tuning. So just a unique instrument. I've really liked them, and I really like them for my style of playing, and it makes me be more percussive when I'm playing. And pull that out of me is kind of a unique feature because I typically lend myself more towards the melodic playing or chordal playing. So I like having an instrument that draws me in a certain area because it helps me to grow and expand as a player. And I think for people that have never played a SunPan, this is an instrument that really will push you to try new things and to discover new styles of playing, new styles of working with this number of notes. About the number of notes as well, we have this mentality now that unless you have a 100-note instrument, you're limited in what you can play. And maybe in some cases, a musician that is used to writing on 18 notes, like myself, would play 8 or 9 and say, oh, I wish I had more notes. But the reality for newer players is that if you can't write on 7 notes, you're not going to be able to write on 20 notes. So I think limiting yourself by thinking I need to get at least 10 notes or 20 notes, it's this kind of a silly limitation. More notes is not going to allow you to write if you're not already writing. So I find that when I was able to upgrade to 17-note instruments, 16-note instruments, I was able to expand off what I already could do on the 8 to 10-note instruments. And that process was easy for me because I already developed a lot of music on 8 notes or 9 notes. But not everybody has spent time to learn how to write things. And I think the limitations that people feel with classic number of notes on instruments is really a standard set by the availability of modern instruments. So don't be afraid to play 8 or 7-note instruments is all I'm saying. So if you enjoyed this video, let me know. Let me know what other instruments you'd like me to take a closer look at, and I'd love to dive deeply into all the makers that I have. And if any of these were attractive to you and you want to get one, mysticinstruments.com is the website, and we ship all over the world, and they come from a reputable source and a person that does this for a living. So I can guarantee the quality of them. Hope you guys are well. Talk to you soon, and hope you learned something new in this video.